Hangzhou Asian Games is just 100 days away. As the head of the Hong Kong delegation, tell us about how the preparation is going so far.
Well, I could tell you, first of all, we are all very excited. You know, we've been waiting for this games for many years in the making. Because of the pandemic, it's been moved forward to 2023, but, you know, that hasn't dampened our spirits. We have been given one more year in time, so all our athletes are actually very ready. They have been training locally, but actually a lot of them are training overseas right now. And if you see their results after the pandemic, you know, there have been a lot of world championships, and a lot of Asian championships, and a lot of our local athletes, they've gotten great results so far. So we are feeling very confident that we could, you know, have a really good streak of medals coming in Hangzhou. So we are ready, and we will be leading our largest ever delegation to Hangzhou. So we're all very excited.
This is China's third time hosting the Asian Games, and it will be the first large-scale international sporting event China has hosted after the COVID-19 pandemic. Do you think that this gives these games a whole new meaning?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the pandemic has really affected the whole world, everyone around the world, but particularly the sporting sector. If you remember 2-3 years ago, the whole sporting world has been put on a halt. No matter you're talking about large-scale multidisciplinary games, or even leagues, or football, basketball, everything has come to a stop. So really, I think people felt really apart from each other, right? I mean, the distance grew between country and country, and also people and people. But we are excited to see, you know, these games being, you know, put on being full-fledged. Because first of all, I think before these games, China also hosted the Winter Games. And it's really unprecedented and very difficult situation. And China also, of course, managed to do it in a very grand and beautiful manner. But now with all the restrictions lifted, I think everyone's excited, not just ourselves, the whole world, I mean, whole of Asia. I believe the organizing committee has a happy problem, is that they're going to receive a higher than expected number of athletes. To really showcase that everyone's excited to come to games, everyone is excited to come again to compete against each other. But again, I think on top of that, everyone's excited to see China after the COVID pandemic. And then I'm sure Hangzhou will put on a great show, great competition, and everyone's excited to go.
You've said before that you think China's 3 Asian Games are reaching a time that represents a new era. We'll talk more about that.
China hosted 3 Asian Games. The first one is in 1990, the second one is 2010, and now, of course, 2023. And in my eyes, it really represents 3 eras of China's development. You know, 1990 Games, unfortunately, I wasn't there personally, but our family was also involved. You know, that really signifies the result, or the prowess after our country opening up after 1979, right? Over 10 years of opening up policy, and we used the Asian Games in Beijing to showcase the new China back then. And 2010 really signifies an era of high economic growth. You know, after the year 2000, China experienced high economic growth over the next decade. And then again, we used Guangzhou Asian Games to showcase our economic prowess and also our economic success back then. But of course, after 2012, the new era came. And, you know, we have further opening up, and we have on multiple fronts a lot of different achievements, not just economic power, and also in terms of culture, in terms of our technology, in terms of our, you know, standing in the world community, in terms of our, you know, effects around the region, and our soft power. So I think this time when Hangzhou comes around is another chance for the world to see the China and the new era, and what we have achieved previously in the past 10 years, but more importantly, where we are going in the future.
As the Vice President of the Sports Federation and Olympic Committee of Hong Kong, what do you think about Asia's sports development these years? In which areas have they improved on, and where do they need to put more efforts in?
Well, I think in general Asia, I think it's really Asian focused now. If you see a lot of international events, and also if you look at a lot of, you know, international federations, Asian federations, the influence of Asia is gaining, right? No matter we're talking about East Asia, Southeast Asia, or West Asia, we're seeing a lot of action, a lot of competitions, a lot of involvement, and even frankly, a lot of resources and money putting into sports through the Asian or Asia region. So I'm definitely very bullish in the future of sports in Asia. I think the dynamic is shifting, and the world lens will be focusing on Asia as well. And I think in terms of China as well, I think there's really been a change as well in mentality and how sports should be developed. China is always a strong sporting nation. How does that manifest? Previously, it manifests in the way of getting medals. We have excellent results in the Olympic and Asian Games. So now I think the sports policy also follows that besides getting great results in competitions by elite athletes, we should focus more on the general population. How can the youngsters of Hong Kong and also mainland really participate in sports so they can have a healthy lifestyle? They might not be Olympic athletes, they might not get medals, but I believe, for the nation, more people get involved in sports, no matter mentally or physically, it's beneficial for them. So I think in the future, 5, 10 years, China will really focus on really bringing up the whole sporting nation or the sporting interest through policy, through resources, but also through, grassroots programs and, facilities. I think these are things that, China will be focusing on. And I think moving forward, China will definitely be able to share its experience with our neighboring countries, how we could build together, a one world to use sports being the linkage, being the bridge to form friendship. I think this is also an important agenda that we should be embarking on.
That's very well said. Thank you for that. And aside from being the head of the Hong Kong delegation, you are involved in the Hangzhou Asian Games through a second identity, the president of the Asian Electronic Sports Federation. What do you think it means for esports to be in the Asian Games, and for the very first time as well, and especially in the city of Hangzhou? And what will change for esports, and what will change for the sporting world in general?
Well, that's a very broad question, but I think the first thing that means is I'll be very busy. I think that's number one. Two hats, but of course both responsibilities are very dear to my heart. So you mentioned about AESF. It's an organization that I've been proud to represent since 2017. So now it's 5 years. Looking back, to cut a long story short, this 5 years has not been easy. For me, when I embarked on this journey, I think the goal for me is really how to bring esports and the traditional sporting community closer together. I remember, representing my organization to attend the esports forum organized by IOC, Thomas Bach, in Lausanne in 2018. Back then, I thought, actually the views on esports and how esports can work with traditional sports were quite wide. There wasn't a big consensus. But at the same time, IOC did recognize that, athletes participating in esports do train and compete in the same vigor and same hard work, let's say, as traditional athletes. So there's common ground, but still apart. But through these 5 years, I'm so happy to see that, under the guise of OCA, they've accepted esports as a medal sport. This is a milestone. It shows that in the past 5 years, not just society, but the sporting circle, the sporting world has let esports, or actually open their mind to a different mode of competition, or something that's very different to traditional ways of working. And to me, esports is not just about gaming. Gaming, or esports you see now, is one form of manifestation of esports. To my eyes, I think the future, how technology combines, or how you use technology to have new forms of competition, maybe work with traditional sports, traditional federations to let's not say upgrade, to offer audiences with a new experience. I think this is something that is very interesting. This is a very interesting time, I think, and we are really at the crossroads. So, having Hangzhou host the esports, I think it will showcase to the world what is possible and what can come in the future.